Kris and Sam from Noizze Podcast here at Noizzefest with Annie from Clt Drp. What a pleasure it is to speak to you again, by the way. If I could just be self-aggrandising for 1 second, we had an interview about 3.5 years ago. We were talking about how you felt about it was really cool that from the first album people started like asking your opinion on things, but how you also found it quite annoying that people would be like, Annie, what do you think about this? Instead of them just researching it on their own. It's like, what do you think about the representation of Palestinian women? Instead of them researching what Palestinian women, how they're represented, etc. Can I just ask how that might have played into the title of the new album? Because the first time I saw that, I felt like that was your way of kind of messaging towards find your own way of finding out what you feel about these world-changing topics. Just out of curiosity, did your annoyance of people's lack of independence play into the title for the latest record at all?
I don't know if it was an annoyance of lack of independence. I think it was more of like, take what you will from this, and also like, I don't necessarily feel like an advocate that speaks for all women, or all queer people or non-binary people, like, if that makes sense.
It does make sense,
so, therefore, like, I was really tired of the questions that were aimed at like a riot girl perspective, because I don't really feel like that's what the band is right now. So yeah, I think the new one was just like, I don't know, have a dive, pick for yourself, kind of like, it wasn't supposed to be like this really pretentious album. It was just like, oh, I got my heart broken. And I'm also going to talk a bit about the weird gender things that came up over the journey of that, you know, and like how that fits with people, personal, as political, and everything. Yeah. It was
weird for me because I saw the title Nothing Clever, Just Feelings, and I was like, oh, and he's really intelligent now. And without like making that sound weird, I was like, oh, and he is really intelligent now. So can I just, before I'm going to move off the title of the record, but like, what made you choose that title? Because I thought you are really intelligent and you do have this kind of wide perspective of and these ideas of how the world will be better if. So why Nothing Clever, Just Feelings? Because I thought it was really intelligent, but I'm just curious your perspective on that.
I'm thinking now. I'm like, I don't know why. Like, I probably had a good reason. No, I think it was like maybe even just like the pressure and like the like emotional labor sometimes that people feel like you have to do, or like oh my gosh, sorry, my brain. But you're like, yo, this guy's really smart. I'm really doing good right now. I think like the emotional labor and like the pressure to be smart, or like to kind of be an advocate for a lot of different things, or always say the right thing.
Almost like takes away the pressure of being a band, almost.
Yeah,
the sense that
100%.
like, oh my god, I can't just write music and it be enjoyed. I have to also provide a political slant and provide like a perspective on social issues. And I actually just want to be perceived as a band that is true equality. The idea of just being treated as a group of musicians rather than this being a representative or a metaphor for these wider social problems or issues.
I think so. Obviously, it's really important, and I love speaking about it, and I love having interviews and conversations and like genuine conversations about this stuff. I just think when it's like very performative, like online or something, sometimes, or like I'm getting really angry and I don't even know what I think yet before I'm being asked questions.
Yeah.
But the title of the album was a little bit more of like, it was like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek to be kind of like, you know what, I'm not really that smart, but I do have something to say, but also you can take what you want from this, kind of like. You know, it was just supposed to be like a very raw album, essentially. It wasn't supposed to be also this huge picture.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? It was just like, the gorgeous things about the album, the nooks and crannies of it, you know? Whether that's the music or the lyrics or like the vibe or like the content of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. It's almost more punk in that way, isn't it, by definition? Like in the sense that you sort of having that communal musicianship appreciation. It's like you can take what you want out of it, and that in itself is fantastic, rather than I'm having a diatribe that I think about that I want you to agree with almost. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You did this really like amazing interview for Kerrang, and it was really beautifully written. You spoke about the concept of the grey area and how there's this weird obsession with it's black or it's white, like you are on one of those sides. And I thought that was like really intelligent and really like thought-provoking. Where do you think like society's obsession with it's A or it's B comes from? Like, why do we obsess over, are you X or Y? Which one are you? Like, why can't we have the grey area? Where do you think that comes from? I'm asking these really philosophical questions on a 6 o'clock on the Saturday evening.
It's so
But like,
good, it's
where do
great.
you think that comes from? Why are we obsessed with this idea of A or B?
I think it's just like it's quite primal, like the idea of fitting in, right? You know what I mean? Like it's like I don't know. I look at that group, I identify with that group, I want to fit into that group, and if it doesn't match this other group, then like I don't want to be a part of it, or I'm going to set my values to not be a part of it. I think I spoke about the Grace area is because when I was younger, I saw things a lot black and white, and then I kind of was like, oh, well, I got a lot to learn. I should chill out on the whole bark, you know. But I'm kind of like, ooh, I just spotted it. Sorry. I was like, I'm getting riled up.
That was the least problematic thing that happened in this interview, by the way.
Annie for glitching.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I should do it more direct line. I don't know what I'm saying. Oh yeah, black and white and the gray. But I also feel now, funnily enough, like I think in that interview I was saying I really miss thinking like that, and I've come in a little bit more of like a circle of being like, I really want that fire in my belly back.
Absolutely.
Because
You're so convinced that you're right about everything when you're 16, right?
Yeah.
And it's so natural to sort of move away from that, be like, you know what, my opinions change as I go along. And like you talk about, like there's a lot more middle in that, isn't there? There's a lot more like, it's more, like, as you get older, you're more interested in finding common ground, that you are defining, I'm over here, you're over there.
Yeah, but it's a balance of being like, I want common ground and I want to be able to speak to loads of different people and like genuinely address opinions and have empathy, but then I also don't want to lose like that radical part of myself.
Absolutely.
Which I feel like in my brain happened for a second, and now I'm like, okay, well, there's too many things happening right now. I can't lose that radical part. Give it back to me.
Absolutely.
So like that's been quite refreshing coming back to that right now.
That's interesting.
And I feel like the band, or like the music right now, we're trying to grapple with that because life fucking is hard.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
and that
like,
range has got to be central to great music, right?
Yeah.
Like, historically speaking, like the majority of great albums have come out of some kind of either personal tragedy or internal strife or sociological issue.
Yeah.
Like usually bands tend not to write great music when everyone's getting along really well, or like the world's really great. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of bands, like Dylan wrote his best album going through a divorce. Like, do you know what I mean? Those kind of things. Does that play into your part in the sense that you think to like, okay, like you talk about wanting to get back to that radical element, it's like you almost like benefit from the strife almost, and that uses a jumping point. How, when you write songs, how do you find that like that kind of conflict and that catharsism from something that conflicted, and then be able to turn that into a piece of music? How does that work, that process?
I mean, like I'll write lyrics over a piece of music that Daphne and Scott have kind of come up with.
Yeah.
So like I'm kind of putting a voice to the kind of sound that they're making, and I don't know. I do a lot of like improv stuff in the sense like I write in the room with them, and then I'll go home and I'll like look at the lyrics later and kind of like start from there. That in itself is quite cathartic because something might come out of my mouth that I didn't know I needed to come out, or like a phrase will come out and I'll be like, oh, that was
So
interesting.
subconscious in a way.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a good, like, you know, in therapy they tell you to journal, like, or stream conscious, or whatever. And I think that like that's something that's kind of how cathartic the writing process is.
That's really
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It does, absolutely.
Whether that's like also personal or like my outside view on things too. It can be both, and it usually is both a lot of the time.
It's finding that balance as well, isn't it? Sort of being able to sort of tailor the things that naturally come out, and that's the expression of our subconscious, but also what best fits the song, what best fits the melody, and sort of having to like weirdly construct the feelings of consciousness. I'm thinking about it on the fly, but construct the feeling of consciousness and then kind of construct it to a melody. Weirdly restrictive, but also I want to express how I actually feel, but also in a way that suits the song. That's a difficult bridge to sort of gap,
100%.
isn't it?
I feel like the sounds that come out of those two. I'm like, what did you give me today?
Who wrote this? Oh, it was me, half an hour ago. Who's that guy? I know what's going on.
Yeah. But I mean, like that challenge is also very fun for like someone's creativity. Do you know what I mean? Or like all three of us kind of like sitting around and putting the pieces together. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to ask you one more question before we leave you alone, because you walked in for 10.3 seconds, ran out, like, are you Annie? I think we'll have an interview with you in 2 minutes.
What's your philosophical opinions on everything we've thought about for the last 2 days? Is that all right?
The natural order of humans is that like we grow up and we grow, and like our ideas and identities like shift. But do you feel like Clt Drp like will always be a band that will always challenge the ills of society that they see fit at that time? Do you feel like regardless of what happens, you have to be the band that fights against what you don't believe in? Or could that change in the future?
I don't know if like I wouldn't mark ourselves as a political band. When I say the personal is political, it's like us as three individuals obviously like feel like, I don't know, sticking up for ourselves, sticking up for people around us, like that's something we like to write about because it's an immediate like a problem.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean everything is like directly political, or I think it's again like the way that I write or the way that we write is like it's a stream of conscious of like, okay, I'm thinking about myself, I'm thinking about my environment, I'm thinking about like my friends and family and my past dynamics, like that. It all really does come into play. So like yes, to some degree, but I think it's growing. I don't know. It's kind of going where the music takes us, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a very helpful answer.
That was an incredibly helpful answer. And considering you had like 3 minutes to prepare for this, you've done unbelievably well.
But yeah, I don't know, because again, like I just said 5 seconds ago, I'm not trying to lose that radical side. I will always kind of talk about things that are uncomfortable, or like I'm a confrontational person. That's always going to come out in music.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to be right about everything either.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean? Like we gotta grow. Like you just said, we're trying.
Gotta be progressive, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That was Annie from Clt Drp, who had like, I don't know, 90 seconds to prepare for this. So thank you so much for your time. I can't wait for your set, man. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Clt
that TED
Drp playing at Noizzefest is going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Annie. Take care, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.